Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Alana.
And I'm Tamara.
And welcome to podcast
Primas.
Let me do that again. Welcome to podcast Primas.
Welcome, everyone.
Today, we will be discussing our personal journeys with conflict in all kinds of relationships.
Yes.
Relationships with a partner, with a family member, with friends, with coworkers, so many types of relationships. I just wanted to try and cover all bases.
Great.
Thank you. All right. But I'd like to open today's show with a couple of quotes that I feel connect with today's topic and our discussion very, very well. The first is,
peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. It's a good one.
I think it's a good one too. So many people think that peace is like when there is no conflict.
No.
It's unrealistic.
No.
The second quote that I'd like to quote.
Oh. Oh, God.
Oh, God help us. Okay. The more we run from conflict, the more it masters us. The more we try to avoid it, the more it controls us. The less we fear conflict, the less it confuses us. The less we deny our differences, the less they divide us. I love every line of that.
It's a great quote.
Yes.
And if you want to go back and rewind it, listen to it again, because there's so many different parts. But I really love every single line. Every single line has really good meaning.
I thought so too. And that's a quote by David Augsburger.
Sup, Augsburger?
Augsburger.
Killed that.
Yeah. Augsy. No, let's not do that. Okay. Now, we're going to be discussing not only just conflict in general, but more specifically the difference between healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict. Because as we know, it is unrealistic to have any type of relationship where conflict does not arise.
Right.
Because two people are never the same. They're never going to look at something the same. They don't deal with things the same. There's always going to be differences. And conflict is definitely where there is an opportunity to grow.
For sure.
Within a relationship and within yourself. At least for myself, I've become more and more aware as I've gotten older as to what an unhealthy conflict is, to recognize my unhealthy reactions to conflict in myself and in other people. And like anything else, how do I choose to respond to either someone who is giving me a response that's unhealthy, or when I recognize my own unhealthy responses, or just going, I'm so proud of myself because now I can see that I have grown enough and I have done enough practice to give a healthy response.
Totally.
And I've chosen to be in relationships with people that also give me a healthy response. That was a lot of unhealthy, healthy responses and conflict words.
You got through it.
We got through it.
You did.
So I have this graph. It's from whittleandpartners.com. Again, this is for every type of relationship. This is specifically a website as it relates to corporations and business. Yeah, workspace. Thank you very much. So they have a really easy to understand chart that goes, that lists, the difference between what healthy conflict is and unhealthy conflict. And Tamara has been so kind as to go, I will read unhealthy conflict.
I'll read that part.
So I'm going to start with the healthy side. And the first point is parties respect each other's viewpoint.
And the unhealthy would be lack of respect for other parties' goals.
Calm, non-defensive,
or explosive, angry, defensive, reactionary.
Healthy point number 3. Readiness to move past the issue's conflict towards resolution.
Or focus on winning the conflict itself, not the potential resolution.
These are so basic, but so good. Number 4 for the healthy side is desire to seek compromise.
Yes.
Desire to seek compromise. Maybe that'll stick in my brain better.
Do I have to sing mine?
It is completely up to you.
Great. So you could have the desire to seek compromise or refusal to seek compromise or bullying.
It's true. The last bullet point for healthy conflict is belief that confronting the conflict will benefit the individuals and the team. Face it, bring it up, deal with it. Don't ignore it. If it keeps coming up for you, if it keeps bothering you, it should be addressed.
Yeah. Fear of conflict or expectation of bad results.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm all over this chart. I was reading the good one. I was like, I do that sometimes. Yeah. And you're reading yours, and I'm like, I also do that sometimes.
Yeah, there's definitely things. I mean, all these things are good reflections and things to read back, listen back, and see, how do I deal with conflict? Is this where I usually go? Do I usually go to A or do I usually go to B? And how can I help to direct that a little bit more into the healthy?
Yeah. I think all of us, I mean, I don't want to say all of us. I think all of us that I know in my very close family friend circle tend to have the knee-jerk reaction to have the reaction instead of the response. And like I said, I've worked very hard. I know you've worked very hard. I know a lot of people in my family have worked very hard to not have that reaction. But I don't know if that's just a product of upbringing or a human reaction.
Right, yeah.
But it seems to be more of a natural human response sometimes to go to that reaction when there's conflict. There's another quote that I want to discuss with you, Tamara.
All right.
And the reason I thought this quote was relevant is because I have talked to a number of people in my life and people that I have been in relationships with that have this idea that a healthy relationship doesn't have conflict, or the idea that, we don't ever fight and that makes it a good relationship. Like I find a lot of people have this sense of pride when we go, we never fight, or we don't disagree, or we don't, conflict isn't like a part of our relationship. And I'm not saying that's something to not be proud of, but then I go, well, are you having hard conversations?
Yeah.
Well, are you actually dealing with things that bother you? Are you just avoiding things that bother you? Like that's kind of my response to it, because why are you not having conflict? And again, it comes to how do we deal with it? So the quote is, conflict is essential to a healthy relationship.
I agree.
And again, I think this can go into a partnership relationship, family relationship, coworker relationship. But can you think of an example in the last, let's say, year where you had a conflict in one of those types of relationships, whatever it may be, where you thought, okay, this actually brought us closer. This was really good. I'm like thankful for this conflict.
Yeah, with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and every time, and we don't fight a lot or get into our arguments a lot, but when we do, they tend to bring up a lot of emotion and we tend to really like get into it because we do make a really conscious effort to change the way that we react and resolve conflict. So this is why this is such a good subject for us, because the family that we were brought up in are very reactionary in their responses. And like you mentioned before, a lot of our family members have taken leaps and bounds in trying to fix that and heal that. And
thank goodness.
Yes. And including us. So I think when we had that one episode that was a wash, we recorded an episode that just didn't go. We were not flowing. We weren't on the same page.
No.
We got irritated with each other and we like stopped the recording and we're like, well, we can't use that.
No.
And we were upset and we were in a space, I think both of us were tired. We were busy that week. We kind of forced ourselves to record
and there was a lot going on behind it too.
I think
and it forced us to kind of go, well, what's going on?
Right.
And then after that episode, we ended up having like a whole other discussion about like, let's get all of this on the table.
Yeah. So we were just having misunderstandings on like how to run this. I mean, we're learning how to do this, you know, like every episode we're learning something different about each other, about ourselves, about how to do this podcast thing, you know? So yeah, that particular time that we had to stop, we didn't use the episode. Obviously, it's just not usable, but we were able to talk about everything and put it all out on the table and realize that there had been some misunderstandings along the way. And we cleared up a lot of that and put everything into columns that we could understand. And we're still learning and we're still growing and we're still evolving and changing. But yeah, that last conflict with you was one that brought us closer, made the podcast better, and then we birthed the next episode out of it, which ended up being super cool and fun and creative. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was. Thank you. Based off of the work that you and I have done in our lives, in our relationships, and all of the things that conflict arises in, we've made a list of what we think the most important steps are to put into motion when experiencing conflict. The first is, and it seems so basic, but I know that
it's huge.
It's so huge, and it's really, really difficult because I know for myself, when I don't feel like someone is hearing me, I can find it difficult to get into a space where I want to completely kind of step back from my point of view, step back from my thought or whatever it is, and really listen to what it is that they're saying, even though I know that they're not hearing me yet.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult thing to do, but that's number one on the list. And I think is so important to learn how to do, is to listen. Listen to the other person and understand their position just as you'd like them to listen and understand your position in the conflict. Try to not listen to respond or to prove that you are right and they are wrong.
Huge.
But listen to understand what the other person is feeling, experiencing, and what they need in this moment to feel safe.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it huge. Sounds so simple, but it's a really difficult thing to do.
It's really big. I think it's very important. And just to like keep that simple and to move forward with that thought is just listen to understand instead of listen to respond. And I think that a lot of people have a hard time with this. Like a lot. And like Alana said, it's something that you have to put into practice. It's not something that's going to come naturally if you weren't taught that when you were a kid. And you do have to take a moment to stop and make sure that you're listening, not listening to what's my next point of what I'm going to say.
Like just bullets.
But listen, like really, if you care about the relationship that you're in and you're caring about this conversation or conflict that's happening, you need to stop, pause, and listen, or it's just never going to work.
Right. Even if you don't agree.
Yes.
Still make the space to go, here's my bubble of my thought and my feeling and my experience. It still exists. It's still there, safe in my bubble. I'm going to now step out and here's your bubble. Step one. Here's our bubbles. Step two.
So step two here says, take responsibility. Take responsibility for your part in the conflict. Self-awareness is key for healthy conflict. Try to have enough self-awareness and accountability to own and understand your part in the conflict and be humble enough to admit it. Hopefully, the person you're in conflict with is able to do the same. If not, do it anyway. Do it anyway.
There's an exclamation point.
Yes. Do it for your self-respect and growth.
There's so many instances in my life where someone has always, or not always, I shouldn't say that, someone repeatedly has not taken responsibility and always gone, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. It's always you. And then that's when, that's tough, especially when it's someone you really care about. And you start going, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? And that's when I think you have to have that very strong sense of self, that very strong accountability for yourself going, did I do something? Is this right? Or does this just not feel right to me?
Yeah.
Because there are so many instances, and the reason I think it's so important that we touch on that is because there are a lot of people that gaslight.
Yes.
And it's really important to recognize that and not be like, I'm going to take accountability for this conflict all the time, all the time, all the time if someone is just gaslighting you.
Right.
Because then you're just beating yourself up.
Right.
As well as that person beating you up. So the take responsibility on both ends of, like you said, what is your part in this conflict? If you're going, hey, I really good with my choices and what I did, and I don't think I have a part, then take responsibility for you staying in a place where you're constantly getting this reaction from someone you're in a relationship with, and take the responsibility of, do I want to stay here? Or take the responsibility of, I'm going to see if I can help this person or help our relationship deal with conflict in a better way. Now, the next one is seek a solution. Sometimes the solution is as simple as both parties feeling heard and understood. I can't stress how, at least to me, sometimes someone just going, I understand. I maybe don't agree, or maybe I don't even understand 100%.
Yes.
But I've taken a moment to really listen to you, and I've taken a moment to try and be as empathetic as possible. And I hear you.
Yeah.
I may not agree.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
Yeah.
That's already huge.
Wow.
And allow each other the space for our differences. That's fine.
Yeah. I think that's really big.
Okay, we're not going to agree on this. There's not always going to be this moment where we're like, oh, you're right, I'm right. Or here's the halfway point.
It doesn't have to
sometimes
be that black
you just
and white.
Don't agree.
Yeah. Like,
and
that's
you can
cool.
go,
that's where you stand. This is where I stand. I still love you. You still love me. We can still be standing on our rocks of where we want to be.
Right. As again,
I rhymed.
And
it's a poem.
poet, and you didn't know it. And the last one.
Let it go. Let it go. I love this. I'm big on detachment. Maybe a little too much so, but listen, I am a big detachment person. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. I'm gonna let it go. It didn't happen the way we wanted it to. I'm gonna let it go. Anyway, let it go. Once you find yourself in a place where there's enough peace and understanding to move forward, feel all the feelings and then let them go. Don't hold on to it, and don't keep score. Oh, big one. Please don't do this. Why? Why do we do this?
Yeah.
It will only come up again and add an unhealthy layer to the next conflict, resulting in resentment. Yeah, letting go is a big one. It's a really difficult one.
It is.
It's a really, really difficult one. And it was one of the things I think that I personally have worked the hardest on with myself, because I used to hold on to everyone's opinions and everyone's things. And it was just so heavy on me that I was like, you know what? I don't have to. And when I realized I didn't have to, and those shackles were put on by myself and nobody else, I freed myself of those shackles and went, if it doesn't belong to me, it doesn't belong to me. And if we can just, like, in a healthy way, let it go and just let it be and lie, it's
a gift for yourself.
It honestly,
it really is
massive gift. It's one I'm very thankful for.
So it's not always going to be let it go once you find a place of peace, because the other person is also giving that to you. It's let it go once you find a place of peace within yourself, regardless of what the other person shows up for or doesn't. Which is really difficult. But the work in doing that, and the work that it takes to not hold on to that resentment and not have all of those little things from the past build up every time something new happens. It is vital
to your health in general.
Totally. But it is so incredibly difficult. But like you said, when it doesn't belong to you, that it already can be very difficult for people, but I think it's a little bit easier to go,
step one.
Let it go. It's not mine. It's not my responsibility. I'm not taking on your shit. It's yours. I'm going to let your shit go off
as long as you took responsibility for the things that did belong to you, and you go, hey, maybe I didn't notice, or I was having a bad day, or you're right, that was shitty. And I had a human moment and that was shitty. That's it. And then both of you can just let it go. There's no need to carry anything on beyond that.
Totally. And this lets me know of a thought that I just had.
Ooh, tell us.
Watch out. In the workspace, I have had so many instances with conflict, and it's a place where I'm really proud of the progress I've made to let it go. But there's so many things at work where you go, it's not worth it, you know? And I've had to really practice this let it go without any kind of major resolution because it's the workplace, you know? And there's a lot of times where you know that person will not meet you where you wish that they would. And you really have to let it go. And on a human level, and this is what I think we need more of, especially in corporate America, is humanizing your coworkers, humanizing your higher ups, humanizing everyone that you work with. We are all showing up and doing the best that we can.
Yes.
And sometimes those levels, like I said, are very different from each other.
Yeah.
And we all need to show up at work and just put on this face as though we're not going through all this stuff and it isn't affecting us and we're robots and like we don't have feelings and emotions and choices.
Beings.
Right. Like I think it's really important to recognize that in the workplace, just to let people know, like, I see you, your feelings are valid and they matter.
Yeah.
Just had to add that in. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Well, let's do a question first.
Let's do it.
What kind of conflict, like what kind of relationship, do you find the most uncomfortable to deal with?
What's interesting is I thought I was going to answer this with family because family is family and family stays in your life and you have to figure it out. I mean, you don't have to, but we try.
We're here.
We look at us.
Yeah.
But the thing that's coming to mind and the thing that has been the most difficult for me was when I was managing a team and having to deal with those conflicts because the conflicts didn't belong to me. And I think that's what the hardest part about it was because I choose people in my life to stay. I'm very, very picky about who stays and who goes. So when I was managing this team of all women, Latino women, we it got spicy at times. There were times when it got spicy with me and it got spicy with each other. And the moments when I had to be leader and manager and sit down with these people and try and figure out a resolution, and I'm not in charge of it because it's not mine. So I can't be like, this is how I'm going to handle it. And like you said, like I've made peace with myself so I can walk away or I can talk, like it had to be dealt with in a very specific and delicate manner, but also it's work. So like we have to move on from this because like these are the solutions. Like would this is the solution or
stuff needs to get done. We can't sit here for a week and wallow in it. Like work still needs to get done.
There was one time where we had a group, it got so bad that we had a group mediation for an hour on a day that was really busy. But it got to a point where like, we need to sit down and talk about this because it's not going anywhere and it's getting bad. And I'm getting all these things in my ears of like, she said. And I'm like, okay, you're not going to do that. So we sat down to do it. But those days at work would be the most draining and the most frustrating because it's work. You have to deal with it in a certain way. You can't deal with it in your way, even though I feel like the way that I deal with things,
you're proud of
pretty
it.
Healthy. I'm pretty proud of it. So I use those tools as a manager, but those were the days that I walked away and called you or my mom or Bianca, and I just had to cry. Like, I just need to sit on the phone and cry with you for a second because I need to let all these frustrations and emotions out because it's so heavy to hold on to other people's shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is really challenging.
Yeah, that was really hard. But I learned a lot I learned a lot about myself and where my conflict resolution stood and where it could use some help. And I'm very thankful for those moments at work as well. As much as it was the most challenging, I'm very thankful because I was able to practice patience, which was huge.
They're really challenging opportunities.
Yes.
Conflict is incredibly challenging opportunity.
Yeah, I love that.
To grow and heal.
All right, well, same to you, Alanita. What kind of conflict or what relationship do you find the most uncomfortable to deal with?
Earlier in my life, based off of how I was raised, there was so much conflict in our family.
Yeah.
I saw more conflict than peace on a daily basis in my family. I was always the one who tried to avoid conflict at all costs and find my peace outside of it. So I would tiptoe, I would avoid, I would just not bring things up to people. I was scared to confront people that made me feel a certain, like this was conflict has been a huge thing in my life that I've had to learn how to deal with. And it took me a really long time because my role was always the peacekeeper. And I always got along with dad. I got along with mom, got along with my sister for the most part. I mean, when we were younger, you've a sibling relationship and you fight and all those things. Yeah. But for the most part, I was the one who wanted to get along with everyone and not have conflict with anyone. Right. So I made sure I didn't do things that would create conflict. Right. I made sure that I said things the right way that wouldn't I tiptoed. And to this day, and luckily we have grown so much individually and we have grown so much in our relationship with each other that it isn't as extreme as it used to be. Yeah. But in earlier years, conflict with my sister was the hardest for me. I think because I saw everything and I think because I didn't understand reactions that happened in my family between my mom and my dad and my sister and myself and everyone until I really dug into our shit. Yeah. I didn't really have a deep understanding of it. It was just like, this is how they react. Right. Yeah. And like we've mentioned before in other podcasts, I was surrounded by people's families that also had really explosive parents. Right. And like would beat their kids. Yeah. And, so like for me, it was never like my family was like the worst, you know, but we had really unhealthy conflict in my family for a very long time. Yeah. Like up until recently, like the last, I don't even know how many years, but there's a lot more healthy conflict now. I'm so proud to say that. So proud of all of us. Yes. But most of my life was surrounded with very unhealthy conflict. Yeah. And whenever there was conflict between me and my sister, it was a different feeling. I don't know if it hurt more. I was definitely more scared of my sister than anyone else because she was terrifying to me when I was younger. Yeah. Like when she was upset, I think I was more scared of my sister when she was upset than anyone. Yeah. And like I said, I don't want to but she and I have done so much work, but totally. But this is your, but yeah, but that was in my life. And even now, like, thank God we don't, but it hits me in a different way. And I don't know that I even necessarily quite understand precisely why yet. Why it hits me as in a different way as it does. I think because I still retreat to little sister role and like, oh no. And I feel responsible and like, and then I get scared. Like, it's like, I think that's still my response. Childhood programming for sure. Yeah.
Well, I feel that like with your sister, you guys have been through everything together. You've known her longer than anyone besides your parents, obviously, but you've had to go through life with her and it hasn't always been super easy. And I think just having that lifelong, so you have new relationships in your life that you can apply the new things that you've learned going forward. But sometimes you just fall to like old patterns with people that you've known for a really long time or that have been in your life and experienced life with you for a long time. So I don't know. That's just my observance of that relationship is you guys have just been through it from day one together. So of course things are going to fall back to old things. I feel that with family too. It's like we fall back to old expectations or old reactions or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see that.
Yeah. That's
a lot.
Yeah, that's the answer to that question. But yeah. Number 2.
Number 2.
How do you feel about your current conflict resolution skills and about your level of self-awareness in conflict?
I have to say, I feel pretty good about it because, like I mentioned before, it's one thing that I've really worked really hard on is listening, really being present when it counts, and also communicating what I'm feeling. That took a long time, but it's also crucial to conflict resolution is being able to communicate in a healthy, clear way what you're feeling or what you need from the other person in the relationship. Like, this is what I'm feeling. I'm needing this from you right now. And whether it's doable or not, at least you're able to express that. And then that can make sense to the other person or not. I think it's so important to do all of it from love and with kindness. And if that's not our driving force, then it's good to take a moment, take a breath, take a step back and wait until you're ready to drive from that space. I know there's a lot of people who are like, I want to deal with this right now. And that can be rough in a relationship if one person needs a second and the other person needs to solve things immediately, because I've definitely been in those spaces before. But yeah, if you need a second, you need a second to get your thoughts together and make sure you're not going to say anything hasty, because once you say it, you say it. That's it.
I used to be that person that was like, no, let's talk about it right now. Like, no, let's not have, because I was so uncomfortable with conflict that I couldn't sit in it.
Yeah, right.
So it was a selfish thing for me. Yeah. I'd be like, no, let's talk about it now and let's get this over with now as soon as we can. Like, I don't want to stay here any longer than we need to. And I'd be like, no. And it took me a while to realize that, like, you need to give people that space. Yeah. And not only did I realize that I needed to allow that space, but as I've gotten older, I've realized that I'm the one who now needs some space. Whereas before I would just be ready to be like, I just dealt with it so differently. Like, I think I was so much in kind of like a survival mode that when conflict arose, I was already like, and I had like the list of things that I needed to do or one foot out the door or whatever it was, that I was like ready to deal with it right away. Yeah. But now that I sometimes I'm going, I don't know what I'm feeling right now. Like, I know that this is my initial reaction, but let me take some time to like think about it and go, where is this really coming from? Yeah. I mean, this is definitely causing a reaction and this is definitely triggering something, but is it this and something else? Right. Or is it just this? Yeah. And is it me and you? Or were you just being really disrespectful and like, I have a boundary and you're not showing me the boundary? Like, I need a little bit more time now. I think that's a really good point. Yeah. Because we all deal with things so differently. Totally. And I think it's so good sometimes, even if you feel like you're ready to deal with conflict, for you to pause and go, wait. Yeah. I think a pause.
Pause is always good.
Good.
Yeah. Pause button is nice. In my first serious relationship, the guy that I lived with, we had a pause button. We had a lot of I look back and I'm like, we were young, but we were like kind of on it. Like, we had some things that we put into play that are super cool and that I still use till today. But we had a pause button that we would put on, that if things got a little too heated or a little too crazy and we were yelling or whatever it may be, we had the ability to go pause.
That's huge.
We could walk away, and it was kind of like our safe word. Like, if we just looked at each other and went, pause, we're going to have a pause. Like, I need a snack. I need to regroup, maybe some water.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah. So it's always important. And how do you feel about current conflict resolution skills, about your level of self-awareness in conflict within yourself?
Yeah. I feel like it's a hell of a lot better than it used to be. Like I said, I used to avoid it. Right. I used to say sorry just to end conflict. even when I didn't feel like I was responsible.
Yeah.
Like early 20s, just because I was like, I just can't deal with the conflict. Like, let's just get past it. And now I'm very proud of the fact that I don't fear the conflict. I have my boundary. I have a standard in all relationships. And no matter who you are, when you treat me with any type of disrespect that isn't okay with me, I will very calmly, for the most part, not always, depending on what relationship it is, let you know that that's not okay.
Yeah, you will.
But also in like fairness, all fairness, it's such an important thing to know your boundary and enforce your boundary, but also recognize someone else's boundary that may not be your own.
Yeah.
And go, oh shoot, I didn't realize that I was doing that either. Because sometimes we get so strong in this is where I live and this is what I won't tolerate, or this is what I will tolerate, and then sometimes forget, oh, your boundary may not be the same as mine, and you're doing the same thing to me, and I have to, like you said, allow each other that space. So I feel like I'm really proud of where I am with my current conflict resolution, and I think I have a pretty good level of self-awareness. I'm, if anything, sometimes because I have a history of anxiety and things like that, sometimes I think that I'm more a part of the problem, or that I create maybe a problem that isn't really there sometimes. In my head, like, oh no, like what if, and then sometimes I go there again, other things that I've had to work through, and that's fine. But I'm pretty proud of it. Obviously, I have leaps and bounds of growth to still do. And
as we all do.
Yes.
All the time.
Just yesterday had a bit of a conflict and a misunderstanding with my partner. And it took us most of the day
to figure it out,
to discuss it and to see each other and understand each other, because it takes us a little while.
And you have to learn that with each other too. Like,
totally.
It's not just you individually learning how to
and
solve the conflict. It's with each other.
Totally. And he was raised completely different than I was, and saw conflict completely different than I ever saw. I don't feel an unhealthy response to him. But the way that we look at things is very difficult and or not difficult, very different, excuse me. And sometimes it takes us a long time. But I'm really proud of myself and him, of not being afraid to have those really hard conversations. And him and I do. We have those hard conversations, and we have a point of reality of non-attachment. Like, we love each other and we want this to be what we want this to be, but let's be realistic about all of it. Okay, last question for you about conflict. How do you deal with people who don't know how to engage in healthy conflict? Well, it's kind of,
I don't.
No. No, seriously. I try to avoid it at all costs. It's true.
You know, I really try to speak as clearly and rationally and as black and white as I can when I feel like I'm in that space with someone like that. And if that didn't work, then I put my hands in the air and I go, okay, this isn't going anywhere, and I'm going to go now.
Not worth my energy.
Time for my exit. Yeah. So how do you deal with people who don't know how to engage in healthy conflict?
Normally, if I can assess a situation and go, I know that they are incapable of doing this, because you can normally kind of tell. Not always, but totally. I go in my brain, they will not be able to actually have a mature conversation about this. And it is one of those instances where it's going to probably cause more conflict or more drama than necessary. And this is one of those things that I'm going to have to go, you cannot meet me here. I'm going to have to try my best to just let it go and choose how I respond and move around you. Not like tiptoe around you, but just be aware, like, that's where you live.
Right.
Now I get to choose how I want to operate around you. And then I get to choose, do I want to stay or do I want to go? That's what's hard about the workplace. You can't be like, you are my superior, but you're fired because I don't want to operate around you anymore. I don't like you know, but I can choose to do whatever is in my control. Yeah. So normally I try to go assess the situation and go, if you can't meet me there, then I normally go, you're not worth having this conflict with.
Totally.
And I need to figure this out on my own and do what's healthy for me in reacting to it. That's normally, I try to choose to not have people close in my life that can't meet me that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I will not keep a friendship or really engage on a deep level with anyone in my life if they are incapable. That's a conscious choice where I'll go, I don't want to have those types of people in my life, period.
And it is okay to demand that of your friends and family.
It's part of my piece.
I need this. I need communication. I need conflict resolution. I need love and understanding. And if that's not where you're going to operate from,
then you can't be a part of my life.
Yeah.
Really. It's not worth it to me.
I agree.
No matter what the relation is, even if we've had a friendship for however many years or whatever it is, and so many people hold on, well, they've been my friend for 15 years.
That's a hard one.
And you're like, okay, well,
then,
but is this, what is right? What is healthy about this relationship? Just the fact that there's time behind it, then be thankful for the 15 years.
Yeah.
And love.
It doesn't have to be perfect and they don't have to be everything that you want them to be. And that's unrealistic also. But like, as long as there's more healthy than unhealthy in your relationship, then you're good. But if like you're just in this because I've known them for this long, but they hurt you on a regular basis,
or can't meet you here and they're causing more drama in your life, then
you're over it.
Then supporting your peace,
you're so over it.
I agree.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with that.
Purred.
We always do that. You're the worst high fivers ever.
Oh, listen.
Okay, so we're a little over time.
A lot of other things.
But do you want to do a random question because it is our tradition at this point?
Oh, I have one.
Oh, great!
Yeah!
Oh my god! Look at leaps and bounds.
Wow. Okay. Of all of the holiday traditions,
appropriate.
Which one do you like the least? I would do away with sitting on Santa's lap. I am not a big fan of making a line with children. I get the magic behind Santa, don't get me wrong. But
it's a good one.
Most of the time, children are crying. There's something that doesn't sit right with me. This is going to sound very judgmental, so I'm going to own that.
Okay.
It doesn't sit right with me when parents are like, I really wanted the crying picture with my kid. You want your child to be uncomfortable and scared on a strange man's lap so that you can take a picture and have a memory. And like, I get on the surface how that can be funny. And I guess that's why I really don't like the whole, like the new trend with Grinch coming in and stealing the presents and scaring the shit out of the children. And people are like, this is hilarious. I'm like, really? Because I see nothing but like true blue fear in their eyes. And like, that's trauma. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
So the whole Santa thing,
I'm unaware of this.
Is very, it's been going viral. People are dressing up in Grinch costumes and coming into their homes. Like they knock on the door and then they like rush in and it's very scary. And they rush in and they take the presents and they're like, I'm taking Christmas.
Oh my God, I've never seen this.
And the children are screaming
of course.
And crying.
How terrifying.
And running. And it's
my God. I'm not laughing because, but like, oh my God.
No, it's such a traumatic scene and people are doing this and it's becoming viral and people are sharing it. And like, I know there are different generations and different generations are like, oh, well, tough it up and whatever. But for me, when I see children with true fear in their eyeballs, I don't like it. It's not my favorite. No, it doesn't make me laugh.
Of course not.
I don't. No joy comes to me when I see that. I like feel really bad for these kids that are getting frightened to the core that this monstrous man just entered their home. Anyway, I answered my own question.
It's good. I mean, that's good.
That's it.
It's a good one. The Santa's lap thing. I've never made Lola sit on Santa's lap. I don't have one picture, but because I'm very much a proponent of your body, your choice.
Yeah. Yes.
Even with aunties and uncles.
Yeah.
It's like you need to acknowledge their existence, but if you don't want to kiss and hug somebody, you don't gotta. I will never make you do that. Like I believe in that, to each their own, but it's her choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that. I totally get that. That's good that you answered your own question too. That could be it. I like it.
Yeah, we could call it.
We could call it that.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
Please follow, like, all the things.
All the things. YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Podbean. We're on all of it. It is today we are recording on New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
It is New Year's Eve. This isn't going to be aired for a while, but this is New Year's Eve right now. So
Happy New Year.
Yay! Podcast Primas. Love you so much. Love you guys, and go into the new year with love and grace for yourself. Practice these skills of conflict resolution.
Awareness.
I'm sure that all of us listening have that one person or that group of people or that relationship that really came to the forefront of your forehead when we were talking about this. And this might be the time to practice these healthy steps to creating a healthier relationship with that person or group.
And look at yourself and see where you can do better in your conflict resolution skills as well. And that's our note.
Yes. All right, guys. Goodbye.
Ciao. Like, subscribe, follow, sing, dance, scream, jump, whatever. I love that.